I'd like to welcome y'all to the Pop Out, you bots. Tonight is a celebration of what makes the left coast the best coast. For decades, we've been at the forefront of this here art form, and it's transcended way past anything we could ever imagine, you bots. The sound, the aesthetic, the culture, the lingo, and everything else that comes with it, you bots. And at the same time, the culture is so expansive, we got infinite flavors to choose from. There's all kind of game involved.
This is Art Talk. Art Talk with iSee109. These are my stickers. They're available on my website to purchase for $10.90. $10.90. 109. 1090. This is a work of art right here. I made this artwork a few weeks ago. This artwork was inspired by Michel Basquiat, of course. Of course. What about Basquiat? Today's thought about Basquiat is Basquiat and DJ Quik are similar. Their spirits are similar. This is something I noticed. I was watching DJ Quik, and it was his interview with Nardwuar. Anyway, that was a very unique, different interview than many of the interviews I've seen with DJ Quik before. The interviews with Quik before, you know, Quik is giving you, hey, I'm Quik, you know, I'm telling you stories, you know, from the hood. I'm giving you that hood-ish. But when he had to deal with Nardwuar, who isn't even in the culture, really, then his presentation, I think he softened up. And one of the smoothest things he said was Nardwuar asked him a question about, I forgot what the question was. And it was something about, like, how do you feel when people do this or do that or something like that? How do you feel? And Quik was like, he said something like, it bothers me because I'm a human being, you know? And it's like, that was kind of a vulnerable answer for Quik to give. Like, you would never hear Quik say that in any other, you know, platform or in any other interview. You wouldn't expect to hear him say that. But with that interaction with Nardwuar, like, it was a gangster's response, you know? But it was unexpected. It was like, wow. Quik was just, you know, being vulnerable in that moment. But vibing with Nardwuar. Like, I thought that was cool. But then the reason why I said Quik and Basquiat are similar spiritually and stuff is because watch that interview with Basquiat, and the interviewer asks him a question about, or no, the interviewer just tells him straight out, like, the way that you produce art is slow. Because Basquiat said, he goes to the art museum, gets inspired, goes back, draws something that he was inspired by, and the interviewer is like, well, that's a long process, or that's a slow process. And Basquiat, instead of coming back with something that was antithetical, that was contrary to what he said, he leaned into what he was saying. He said, oh, you're saying that it takes me a long time to do this, that's a slow process? Basquiat says, well, I'm a slow person. I got the same vibes watching Quik's interview with Nardwuar as I did with Basquiat, and watching that interaction. I was like, whoa, these dudes are similar. Like, creatively, like, 'cause DJ Quik is a genius, right? Musically, a genius. Scientific, you know, he knows his stuff. Basquiat, an artist who used the canvas. He used music too, music as well, but primarily the canvas. And he knew his art. He knew art history. He knew things, right? His knowledge was deep. You can't say that Basquiat didn't know art. And in the same way, when you listen to DJ Quik talk about musicianship, talking about sonics and how music is recorded, you get an appreciation for Quik's intellect, for his genius, because he knows his ish. That's just something I wanted to say. Because DJ Quik is, I've been a fan of DJ Quik since 1991. James put me up. I'll give James his credit. James put me up on Quik, but yeah, since 1991, middle school. And they say in middle school, like your identity is defined or solidified. Like that's the most impressionable time of your life. I think there's something like that. If you're an educator and you've studied child development, you probably know what I'm alluding to. But that's a very important time in your life. And so for me, hearing DJ Quik's music, Second to None, AMG, that was those guys really informed us about the world. So, back to Basquiat. I made this artwork because it's such a influential work of art for me, because in the actual work of art that this is based upon, this is kind of hip hop, because I'm interpolating Basquiat's artwork, right? Just the same way that DJ Quik interpolates, a previous album that was created by another group. It's not sampling, it's an interpolation. I think it was Ferris Thompson, Robert Ferris Thompson. I'm looking at the book right over here. Let me grab the book. It's a little dusty in here. Robert Ferris Thompson. In one of those interviews, in one of those documentaries about Jean-Michel Basquiat, Robert Ferris Thompson said it's these ideas, I guess old ideas, that are coming through his new mind, right? That's what it was like for Basquiat to create artwork. It's not that he's redoing something, but it's these old ideas coming through his new mind. Robert Ferris Thompson, Flash of the Spirit. This is a book that inspired Jean-Michel Basquiat. Should probably hold the microphone like this. Let me check the time. All right, we've been on it. We've been at it for 8 minutes now. I got this book the other day. Well, let me tell you how I discovered, or how I even came to purchase this book, okay? All right, so I was in Seattle, Washington about 5 days ago. 5, 6, 7. I mean, I was there on the 13th, 14th. 13th. Left on the 12th. On the 13th I arrived. The 14th was a whole day, and then on the 15th. So I was in Seattle the 13th, 14th, and on the 15th, right? Today is the 20th, June 20th, all right? See how particular I am about the details? I'm like, let me get it straight. Let me get it right, So I was in Seattle, Washington. I was staying at my hotel, and I picked up a book, a coffee table book, in their lobby while I was charging my cell phone in their lobby, killing some time before I was leaving, before my departure. And I was looking through a book, and it was an art book. And what I did is I noticed some artwork in the book, and I thought, that's interesting. Who is the artist? I want to see more of their work. And the story behind the artist was fascinating because the story goes, the artist is unknown. The artwork was discovered in an abandoned house in Oakland, California. The artwork was discovered, and there were a number of images, and I guess someone decided to capitalize on it, to take the artist's work and then reproduce it. And what I hold in my hands is no, there are 30 some odd pages in this small booklet of all the images. Excuse me, not all of the images, but 30 some odd images, maybe more, of this artist, of this unknown artist. They just happen to find these drawings in an abandoned home in Oakland, California. That story alone is intriguing. They just found some artwork, right? And someone created a book of this artwork. For what I can show you, I can only show you the cover and the back, the front and back covers, because the artwork is explicit, erotic, of a sexual nature. And the main character in the art is possibly the artist, right? These are possibly not reproductions, but depictions of the artist in basically in a whole bunch of sex acts. Now, the reason why I grabbed the book or even was attracted to this artist's work isn't so much because of the sex, but rather because the artist may have been a black man drawing himself in these works of art. So he's drawing like possibly a black man's fantasies, right? So I was like, wow, that's interesting. You can really get into the dude's mind. You can see him, if these are depictions of himself, you can see him at bars, you can see him with ladies and doing wild things. And it's like he had a vivid imagination, or he had a vivid and wild sex life, an active sex life, you know? I don't know. And then the story itself about finding his artwork and not knowing who the artist is, and just, that's bizarre. You know, because most stories about artists that I have heard of sound like, you know, he's doing art for the public, and he gets recognized and he becomes famous, and then, you know, possibly like in Jean-Michel's case, he dies at a young age. What a tragic story. Or just that person has a long life and they are constantly trying to shake up public opinions, public ideals, and trying to wake up the audience. But in this case, we've got pictures of a dude just showing us his life, or maybe his imagined life, a fantasy life. I don't know. This is the book. William Crawford is the name of the artist. And we only know that because he signed his work as William Crawford. And so when I found the work in the book, the coffee table book up in Seattle, I was intrigued by the artwork because I saw a black man, drawings of a black man, you know, doing sexual things. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And then from there, I read the story, and they said that the artist is unknown, and that these not paintings, but these drawings were found and then they compiled them into this little book. And I wanted a copy of the book. I thought, man, that is just wild. What a story. for me, for my YouTube page, my podcast, my artwork, you know, I'm very much involved in the experience of telling people this is what you should pay attention to, this is what you should look at, this is what I'm trying to communicate, this is what I want the world to know. This artist did not have the chance to do that. This artist's work stands alone, and you can see and you can imagine and try to infer what that person wanted to communicate. Lastly, well, I guess I grabbed 2 books, and I bought this book when I was in Seattle because I couldn't find this book in Los Angeles, at least where I looked. I couldn't find it. This is a book from the Library of America, collection of America's great writers. I think this is the Library of America, a copy of Black Boy and The Outsider, which were two works by Richard Wright. I have a great appreciation and respect for Richard Wright now that I've read his work. I knew about his work. You know what? I knew about his work when I was a kid because when his work, Native Son, was released, or there was a movie based on his novel, Native Son. It was released like in 1980, 80 something, early 80s, I think. My mom was watching Native Son, or it came on television, and my mom was watching it. And I distinctly remember watching those scenes of the black boy or the black man, getting hit. He was on the water tower and the water hose was hitting him. That impressed my mind. Those images will never, I'll never forget those images. But that's what I saw when I was a kid. So I was aware of Richard Wright through my mom, because my mom, having watched the movie, my mom was an English major, so these works, she might have been already familiar with them, before the movie, because she may have read Native Son in school. Or maybe maybe Native Son was not in the curriculum. I don't know. Maybe she did the reading on her own. Maybe, I wonder, that's interesting. I got to talk to my mom and ask her what was going on. What did she think of Richard Wright as an author? I wonder. So I learned about Native Son, but I learned about the other book, The Outsider, recently, and I bought that book because I couldn't find The Outsider. The Outsider is the name of the story by Richard Wright that I'm reading right now. And I couldn't find the book in Los Angeles. I went to I called 2 bookstores. I went to one bookstore. None of them had the book. I went to Seattle. I went to a bookstore. I went to one bookstore in Seattle, and they had it. They had that copy. So I bought it. Yesterday was Juneteenth. I'm a black man. My experience as a black man in America is not one that I'm experiencing alone. You don't experience being black in a vacuum. There's a multiplicity of ways of experiencing blackness, of expressing blackness. By reading Richard Wright's work, I'm tapping into an experience. I'm tapping into the literary expression of experiences that I have, of feelings, of attitudes, of ideals that I already possess because I'm black in America. Dig that. The idea that we are experiencing reality not in a vacuum was driven home by this book that I bought. I spoke about this on another YouTube video. This is an interview with Eldridge Cleaver. And in this book, the fact that Richard Wright Eldridge Cleaver, Julia Wright, Kathleen Cleaver, all of these people were experiencing or reality at the same time. You know, their lives overlapped in time and in space. But that, and also the ideals, the conclusions that they drew were similar, or rather they were wrestling with the same monster, the same demon, racism. That's the demon. That's the elephant in the room. That's the thing about this, because when I hear about Richard Wright, when I hear about Eldridge Cleaver, I think, well, that's a different time period. That's a different movement. Richard Wright was a sophisticated literary figure. Eldridge Cleaver was this outspoken political activist. It's like, hold up. These are one and the same. These are one and the same, but these are different expressions of a fight, of a war. These are two warriors, okay, on the same battlefield. Maybe they are on different fronts, but they're fighting the same battle. And that point was driven home because I was reading about the interactions between them, between those people that I named. Julia Wright was friends with Kathleen Cleaver. Kathleen Cleaver was Eldridge Cleaver's wife. And Richard Wright was Julia Wright's father. So, you know, I spoke with Bobby Green today, and he told me, don't think that much has changed, because for what he's experienced, what he remembers of having experienced in the past, those elements still exist today. So to be black in America is, like James Baldwin said, we are angry, constantly angry when we know what is happening. But the point is that we have to be woke. We have to be awake, because to be asleep is to be asleep on the battlefield. The war is raging all around us. We have to be awake and aware in order to fight back. So reading these books is a way to fight back and to stay aware of what's happening, because past lives inform us today. I love the comedy of Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney didn't lie. Paul Mooney, whoo. I went back and I was reading this, Black is the New White, and I was like, dang, Paul Mooney was from Oakland, right? Yeah. His family lived in Oakland. And so in order to get away from Hollywood, he and Richard Pryor, well, Paul Mooney drove Richard Pryor to Oakland to get away. I thought that was important. I said, wow. No wonder Paul Mooney was so his comedy was so in your face, militant, unrelenting. He didn't care who he pissed off. He didn't care if he offended white people. He was telling the truth. Man, he told the truth. And the more I learn about the world and history, it's like, man, he was just making it plain as black and white. Plain as night and day. He was making it plain for all of us to see. The question is, were we paying attention? As usual, I'm just rambling because it's jazz, baby. This is jazz with iSee109. Just doing my thing. Peace and blessings, y'all. Jazz with iSee109. Kobe, let them know.
You're at 109 right now. hot.
Why should people care about DJ Quik? Why should people care?
Because I'm human, I have feelings. You got to.
Thanks so much, DJ Quik. Keep on rocking in the free world and do-do-do-do-do.
Do.
So when you're working on this, this Roman belt buckle, how'd you decide to?
Oh, that's from a drawing. I did at the Metropolitan of Roman belt buckle that was bronze.
And so you just decided you wanted to put a Roman belt buckle there and went to your drawing?
No, I wanted to put a Roman belt buckle on this painting, right? I had the idea to do it, and then I went over to the Metropolitan Museum and I did the drawing of the buckle, and I came back with it and I put it right there.
Well, that's kind of a slow process.
I'm a slow person.
Quik. Why should people care?
Because I'm human, I have feelings.
That's kind of a slow process.
I'm a slow person.
Quik. Why should people care?
Because I'm human, I have feelings.
That's kind of a slow process.
I'm a slow person.